more charges be on the way? Marion County Prosecuting Attorney Ryan Mears joins us now. So, Mr. DA, could more charges be on the way? You've already upgraded the charges, the misdemeanors to felonies. Might there be more?
Yeah, so one of the things in the state of Indiana is you can actually upgrade the battery charge from a level 5 felony to a level 3 felony if you have what is known as permanent or protracted loss. And that's one of those situations where you're looking for a healthcare provider, a doctor in particular, to be able to provide that diagnosis and say, what's the long-term impact of these injuries and how is it going to impact the victim? And so those are our conversations that we'll have with the treating physicians, the doctors involved with this in this case, and that'll help us make that ultimate charging decision.
So if these injuries, these stab wounds and the cuts to the face and right through the cheek to the tongue, if these are permanent injuries, the felony charges will be upgraded to more serious felonies, is what you're saying.
That's correct. And so we're waiting for a doctor to kind of confirm and provide us with that information.
So have you learned anything more from other witnesses or other surveillance video from the hotel? And does the hotel video, the surveillance video you've already seen, confirm everything the truck driver told you about what happened?
Well, where this particular incident occurred was very well covered by surveillance footage. I mean, you have surveillance footage from multiple businesses that are in the area. It took place in an alley between two separate hotels that also had pretty robust surveillance systems. And then there's actually surveillance footage from the truck itself. And so we had really a number of different camera angles which captured most of what took place on this particular day. And, you know, we had an opportunity to speak with the victim. The victim's never had the opportunity to review any of the surveillance footage that we just referenced. And it very clearly corresponded to the video that we were watching, which certainly lended credibility to the victim's version of what took place.
Have you spoken to Mark Sanchez?
No, I mean, we're legally prohibited from doing that. You know, certainly he's got an absolute right against self-incrimination.
But detectives can ask him what happened, right?
Well, but I think it's important to remember he was significantly injured in this particular incident. And so when medical personnel arrived on scene, their focus is trying to offer help and make sure that they're in a position to offer as much assistance as possible. And so someone has to be in a position to offer a statement. And so in both of these situations, with both the victim and Mr. Sanchez, they were immediately taken into medical treatment. They received pretty significant medical treatment. So individuals weren't in a position to provide a statement.
And I'm curious, have you done toxicology? The truck driver says that Mark Sanchez smelled strongly of alcohol, but his behavior, I mean, there are reports from witnesses that he was running wind sprints in the alley. This is midnight Friday night. It's very odd behavior. Was he on drugs of some kind?
Well, that's one of the things that we're going to continue to look into. You know, it's protected health information, so it's not something where we can just go to the doctor's office and get that information. There's a process for acquiring that information. That's exactly what the detectives are doing right now. And once we receive that information, we're hoping that it enhances our understanding of exactly what took place on this day and why this set of circumstances unfolded the way that it did in the early morning of Saturday.
If he decided to drink himself silly that night, he's legally responsible for whatever he did under the influence. But if somebody drugged him against his knowledge or will, would that be a mitigating circumstance? Would you consider dropping charges, or how does that work?
So in Indiana, voluntary intoxication is never a defense, meaning that if you're ever engaged in
but what about involuntary drugging?
Yeah, then I think that becomes a little bit of a more difficult question. That's a more fact-sensitive inquiry in terms of how was an individual drugged and what evidence would we have to support that the individual was drugged, as opposed to voluntarily making the decision to consume alcohol or anything else. And so that would be a conversation certainly we would have if we received that information. But at this point in time, that's not something that has been brought to our attention.
Right, because the truck driver says he not only pulled out a knife and stabbed Sanchez twice, but that he sprayed him with pepper spray. I mean, it's pretty amazing that any human being can, you know, be pepper sprayed directly in the face and stabbed and still keep coming.
Well, certainly there was quite a bit of resistance involved in this case. And I think it also speaks to the seriousness of the altercation. You have both individuals who sustained pretty significant injuries, which I think highlights just the nature and extent of this confrontation that took place between these two individuals.
Wow, it's an incredible thing that happened. And you are not, by the way, was the truck driver stabbed with his own knife? Did Mark Sanchez get it away from him? Like what gave him that cut on his cheek?
That's one of the things that everybody's still trying to determine is the exact sequence of what took place. Certainly, it is our position that as a result of this confrontation, that the victim sustained these injuries and that the victim was acting in self-defense. And so because of that, we are comfortable with the charging choices that we've made to this point, and we'll continue to evaluate this case as we receive more evidence.
Yeah, it's worth reminding our viewers that Indiana has very strong stand your ground self-defense laws, which is why the truck driver has not been charged with any criminal charges in this case, correct?
Yes, and it's important to note that in Indiana, you have no duty to retreat, and It's whether or not your fear was reasonable. And certainly what's the allegation here is you have a 69-year-old man who was confronted by a 38-year-old former professional athlete, and he indicated that he was in fear for his safety. And certainly that satisfies the self-defense statute.
Ryan Mears, prosecutor, the lead prosecutor in the case, district attorney, I really appreciate you joining us. Look forward to following this case. We'll talk to you soon, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.